Hey, hello YouTube, Techno again. And this past Friday I actually had the pleasure of seeing the new Venom Let There Be Carnage. Now to give you a summary, Eddie Brock, played by Tom Hardy, interviews an demented serial killer named Cletus Cassidy, played by Woody Harrelson. Brock was the only reporter he could spoken to. Now, after finding a clue in his cell, Eddie, well, mostly with the help of Venom, helped uncover an outstanding victim of Cassidy. So this discovery prompts him to be sentenced to lethal injection. Like one last interview, where I assume that Brock was actually hoping to hear Cletus from basically express remorse for his victims and everything that he did. But what ended up happening is that he compared Eddie to himself, saying that they were one and the same, in the case that they both were a problem for everyone around them, causing nothing but problems. This leads to Venom getting provoked by his insults and attacking him, and leading to Brock getting bit. And this causing him to be drawn some of the parasite. About partway through his injection, later on, Carnage finally appears and stops his execution, attacks all the guards, and literally breaks out of prison. Anyway, while that was going on, there was basically some witty banter between Brock and Venom themselves, kind of rubbing at the odd couple. Pretty much your typical bicker, insults back and forth, things get broken. And eventually Venom ends up separating from Brock by going through one body for another. And eventually, with the help of Eddie's ex and her new fiance, they end up bonding again. Anyway, while that was happening, Cassidy tracks down the Ravencroft mental institution to break out Frances Barrison, which is his love of his life, and end up setting their childhood home on fire. Then with them, along with Carnage, leads to some sort of revenge wedding plot. By Revenant of Joker and Harley Quinn, DC, the Marvel equivalent of the Joker and Harley Quinn, I mean. Anyway, and this movie ends with a complete Carnage versus Venom battle at the cathedral where the wedding was supposed to take place. Which, to me, was actually one of the highlights of that film, aside from the witty banter from Venom. They actually got more speaking time than he did during the last film. It was actually pretty funny. Anyway, in that fight ended up leading with Barrison killed by a bell, Carnage getting eaten by Venom, and then Cassidy finally being decapitated. And there's also a post-credit scene that I'm not going to spoil for you. So all in all, it was a pretty good plot. It's hilarious, witty, and the fights are pretty top notch. And both Tom Hardy and Woody Harrelson play their roles pretty well. And overall, this film is an overall 8.75 out of 10 for me. I would recommend seeing this in the theater and getting this on DVD if you're a big fan of the first film like I was. Anyway, that's been my first Spectrum Nerd movie review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go see the film because of this. And I'll see you in the next one.